Hey everybody, welcome back to Brainiac Baseball's 1980 Detroit Lions alternate history. We just wrapped up week 16, the final week of the 1980 season. We suffered a loss to the Atlanta Falcons, so we're going to take a look back at the final stats of that game, and then we'll look at the final stats for all of the Detroit Lions players, and maybe try to determine who our player of the year is. I think it's an obvious choice, but we'll look them over, and then we'll take a look at the league leaders. Pardon me. We'll take a look at the league leaders, and then we'll look at the playoffs. And I think what we'll do is I was going to try to play every game of the playoffs in like computer versus computer mode, but I think that's just too time consuming. So we'll just do a weekly advance and get through and find out who wins the Super Bowl. So we're going to do that. And then I'm assuming that at the end of the playoffs, then we'll have the free agency period where we re-sign our current players and then do the draft. I envision that as the way the season culminates. So if that's what happens, then we'll do the draft and the free agency in a separate video. But for now, let's take a look back at yesterday's game versus the Falcons. We got down early. We got down 17-0. We had Eric Hipple, our backup quarterback, in there due to Gary Danielson being injured. And he didn't put up terrible numbers. In a way, his numbers were comparable to what Gary Danielson would have done, but Billy Sims fumbled on our first possession, and we lost that, and then we had to punt, and then we threw an interception, and after those first three possessions for Atlanta, we were down 17-0, and the game was pretty much over at that point. We did fight back to make it a one-score game, thanks to an onside kick, but I think we threw an interception in our own territory, and the Falcons scored, and that was the ball game. So, as per usual, we did lead in time of possession. We did that every game this year, with the exception of week 1, when we didn't really even know what we're doing. And then week 11, which was a debacle versus the Cowboys, and then last week versus the Steelers, where we were just manhandled the whole game. So that is going to conclude the season. We finish at 4-12, and thankfully we do get the first overall pick in the draft, and we've got some major decisions to make when it comes to that. Before we take a look at the final team stats, let's just, as a reminder, take a look here at the final standings. Congratulations to Don, who won the Billy Sims autograph jersey. We're going to ship that out, I believe, tomorrow. I would have done it today, but I believe the post offices are closed. So it's boxed up, ready to go. Congratulations to Don. Sean finished 1 game back, and John was 3 games back. And I appreciate all 3 of you following through every week, watching these games. I don't know if we'll have another contest for the 1981 season, because I don't really, I'm grateful for everyone taking the time to watch, but I feel like I kind of trapped you into a commitment for watching every week, and I don't feel good about that. I hope that you watched because you wanted to and not because you had to in order to stay on top of the game, you know, for the contest. So nonetheless, congratulations once again to Don. Good job by him. And okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the stats here. Now, I went ahead and put everyone back, regardless of whether they're injured or not, so we can look at our roster as a whole here. And Gary Danielson, in his first full season as quarterback for the Lions, I thought he accumulated a lot of great stats, but ultimately, I mean, he was pretty messy. He had 20 interceptions, I mean, which is pretty normal for this era to have more interceptions than touchdowns. But, 54 0.5% completion percentage. Not great. He's not particularly mobile, so he couldn't scramble for first downs. We never really felt in any game. If you look at, we'll take a quick look here. I mean, none of the games that we won were blowouts other than the Packers game in which they lost Lynn Dickey. So they had to put their backup in, and, we demolished them that game. We shut them out, in fact. But all of our other victories were all one-score wins, and if we had a better quarterback, maybe it would have been a different outcome in some of those. But the only quarterback available in the draft is Neil Lomax, which I don't think is that much of an upgrade over Gary Danielson. So there's the final numbers for Gary. Of course, he was injured in Week 16, and we had to go to Eric Hipple. We'll take a look at Billy Sims. On any other team, he might be the player of the year for the Lions. I think that's going to go to Freddie Scott. We'll take a look here momentarily. Billy Sims ended up with 1,414 yards, over 4 yards per carry. He had 2 touchdowns in the final week there, giving him 14 on the year. He had 3 receiving touchdowns. I mean, that's 17 total touchdowns. That's good anywhere. I don't know. Maybe he does deserve it, the player of the year. Well, let's take a look here. Then there's Dexter Bussey, who relinquished his starting job for the rookie Billy Sims and accumulated 268 yards rushing with a 4.19 average. He had 2 touchdowns, had a couple of receptions out of the backfield. He did what he had to do. Here is David Hill. David Hill, he probably had his best game in Week 16. He started all 16 games. He had 38 receptions for 326 yards. Again, I'm not really sure I understand why he was rated so low coming off an all-pro year in 1979. He only had 1 touchdown, and if you remember, that was in overtime that gave us a win. So his 1 touchdown was big for us. And then we have Freddie Scott, our wide receiver 1. The guy had 109 receptions. He did get injured early on in Week 16, and that prevented him from getting 2,000 yards passing. We'll look at the league leaders. I believe he is number 1 in both of those categories. Only 9 touchdowns. Not his fault. We just didn't have anybody to get him the ball in the end zone. So great job there by Freddie Scott. Now, interestingly enough, his yards after a catch is only 3.7 yards. That seems pretty low, right? I mean, his average per catch was 17.6, which is a career high, other than his rookie year where he only had 18 receptions. So I don't know. We're going to debate that here momentarily, whether he's player of the year or not. Leonard Thompson, he stepped up yesterday. He had 54 receptions on the year, 736 yards, and he is a free agent. Wait, is Scott? And Freddie Scott's a free agent. So we don't have any wide receivers coming back that we can trust. We may have to pay out Freddie Scott and let Leonard Thompson go. Okay, our offensive line, we don't really need to spend any time on that. If you look here, you can see how many yards per rush our running backs got when these players were in the ball game. Our left tackle, Bollinger, who had a ton of penalties, and Willie Parker were the worst of the offensive line. You can see how many sacks they gave up here, with Bollinger being the worst in that category. So, I don't know. I mean, we definitely could hopefully draft some late-round offensive linemen and get them right into the starting spot next year. Then we have our backups, which we'll scoot through pretty quick. Here's Eric Hipple. He did get the 1 start. His completion percentage was higher than Gary Danielson's. Threw for a total of 403 yards, 1 TD, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. And, his rating is an 80, which is the league average for quarterbacks. So he'll be on a roster for a few years to come. And then we got Jeff Comlo, who did not play. Ulysses Norris. we did design one play for Ulysses Norris, which resulted in 2 catches for 20 yards. Not great ratings. This is one guy we're definitely going to let go. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Okay, then we had Ho King. We did design some runs for him and some receptions, but he did not really perform. He did get 1 touchdown, and he's a free agent. So, wow, we are going to lose a lot of players. Rick Kane, we did give him a majority of the third down running back rushes and receptions, and he kind of came through for us. He had a touchdown rushing. He did fumble twice. We also had him do kick returns and punt returns. I like him a lot. He's got good speed, and he'll be on the team for a couple more years. Then we have some players who didn't really even play. Bo Robinson, he was a second season. He didn't play. Ken Collicutt did not play in 1980. Mike Freedy, wide receiver 3. At some points, he did step up. 33 receptions, 397 yards. He had a couple TDs. I think he had one really long one. I wish it showed longest reception, but it doesn't. Then we had Jesse Thompson. He had a couple receptions in week 16 due to Freddie Scott's injury. 12 total receptions on the year. Ray Williams, he had 5 receptions and a touchdown. John Arnold, he's our kick returner, and he did get a reception in the final game, and he did have the touchdown on the kick return, I think, against the Packers. So that was good. And then here's backup offensive lineman, which we can just get through here. None of these guys. Baldschweiler's injured with a fractured hip, and because of that, his ratings went down to nothing. So I don't know if that's a career-ending injury or when we finally flip over to the 81 season, if his ratings will go back to their normal numbers. I guess we have to wait and see. Rod Walters, he got injured in the last game of the year. We did give him a start at guard. Burton Lawless made it into 3 games. Amos Fowler, we gave him a few starts at center. You could see he was not blocking well for Billy. And he started some games against, Pro Bowl nose tackles. Who knows? Wally Pesuit, we gave him a few starts. He also was terrible. We were just struggling to find centers that we could utilize. Now we're taking a look at our defense here. Let's just look at the overall numbers really quick. Here we go. I did put our linebackers back in there. Charlie Weaver was the best player on the team. When he was injured in week 8 for the season, he was leading our team in tackles. And at the time, I believe he had the highest rating. Now it's Mike McCoy. But you can see here by looking at the numbers that Stan White, who was the only linebacker that stayed healthy, ended up having the most tackles on the year with 83. He did get an interception in there as well. Al Bubba Baker had 6 sacks leading the team. William Gay, who started the year as a defensive tackle, I converted him to defensive end just to get him an opportunity to start with higher ratings than Dave Purifoy. And he did end up getting 2.5 sacks. So that was a good move, I think. And then our cornerbacks were, I don't know, they're so highly rated, but yet they struggled against good receivers. Prentice McRae getting injured really hurt us. He was so good early on. He missed twice. He got injured. He came back from injury and then was re-injured. Ray Oldham led the team with 4 interceptions, and I didn't even start him. He was a dime back, And we moved him into the lineup, and he really performed well for us. So here's all the backups here. You can see Dave Simmons. He was the first linebacker called up due to injury. So he ended up getting 62 tackles, which ended up being the fourth most tackles for a guy that started only half the games. Gary Cobb, he's a penalty machine. And Eddie Cole. These other guys didn't really get the chance to play. You'll see our linebackers here. James Harrell got to get into a few games. Ken Fantetti, that tackle was probably on special teams. And then you look at all of our secondary players, and Jimmy Allen, he did have an interception despite only starting 12 games. So there's our defense. I don't know. One of the things I'm going to do in the offseason before, once we get everything settled and I get all the new players, free agents and draft, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at the defensive schemes and see which one I think suits our team best. Because I don't know. I mean, we needed maybe draft some better defensive players, but we didn't get enough sacks. Our secondary guys didn't cover the way that I thought they should. We'd call the right defensive scheme to counter the offensive play, and they would still get big plays. So very frustrating. Let's look at special teams. I got to tell you, Eddie Murray was a huge disappointment as a rookie here. All the missed field goals, only 70%, and he missed an easy one. He missed a 30-yarder. He missed 3 from 30 to 39, 3 from 40 to 49. I mean, I don't know. I'm very frustrated by Eddie Murray, and I think just as in real life, you got to have a kicker you can trust, and we clearly cannot trust him. It is his rookie year, so maybe his overall rating will go up between now and next season. Tom Scladati was excellent. We probably didn't punt as often as we should have. We went for it on fourth down quite a bit because we were always behind and trying to win. So because of that, we didn't punt as much as a real professional football team would. Not named the Chargers, I guess. So there you go. That is a kind of a quick summary of our stats for our team. Let's take a look at the league leaders and see where they would fall. We're going to look at both conferences. We can, we could choose just AFC or NFC, but let's just look at them for both conferences here. Quarterback rating, Dan Fouts beat out Ron Jaworski and Doug Williams. Jaws was injured the last 2 games of the season, but he will be back in time for the playoffs. So as the Eagles have the number 1 record in all of football, let's take a look at, we're just going to go down the list here. Catch rate. So I guess this is the percentage of catches thrown to these players. Someone named Clarence Harmon. Oh, there he is. Running back. Caught 76% of the balls tossed to him. There's no Lions on that list, that's for sure. Quarterback completions. Gary Danielson finished in the top 10 despite missing the last game of the year. Brian Sipe had the most completions. Then we have completion percentage. Yeah, we're not going to be on that list. But also, in real life, if you're not completing 65 to 70% of your passes, you're probably going to be forced to back up. And these numbers that you see here, even Joe Montana, are very accurate for this era. Jaws over 60%, same with Brian Sipe. And again, that's just pretty common for this era. Field goals, yeah, we definitely don't have a guy on that list. Nick Lowry had 30 for the Chiefs. Field goal percentage, there you go. Again, not on that list is Pat Leahy. Wow, it was 90.9. So he missed 2 field goals from 40 to 49, made all of them from 50. That's amazing. Okay, what else we got here? Field goal percentage. Oh, yeah, we just did that. My bad. Fumbles forced. Yeah, Charlie Weaver had 4 of them, and he missed half the season. He shared the lead with a bunch of other guys, including L.C. Greenwood and Ted Hendricks. There's a couple Hall of Famers there. Okay, interceptions. We did not have anybody on this list, as Ed Taylor was number 1 for Miami. There he is in a Jets uniform. Okay, kick return average. John Arnold was on the list. I didn't think he was doing good enough, so I pulled him from that role, and actually, he was in the top 10. So that's bad on me. Roland Harper of Chicago led. He also had a touchdown. All right. Kick return touchdowns. Did anybody have 2? Yeah. Wendell Tyler of the Rams had 2 for a touchdown. And so did Delvin Williams of Miami. Oh, my God. He had 4 total. That must be punt return and kick return. Holy shnikey. That's amazing. Passes defended. No Lions on there. Somebody named Perry Smith. Oh, there he is. In a Green Bay uniform. Passing touchdowns. Terry Bradshaw almost had 40. That's kind of a big deal for this era. No Lions. Passing yards. No Lions. Kenny Stabler had 46.05. Passing per game. Kenny Stabler. Makes sense, right? Hey, Gary Danielson on that list with 243. That tells you right there we were always playing from behind. Passing. Wait, we just did that. Yeah, passing per game. Okay. Punt average. Hey, why not? Sklodaney. He was 5th. As we just saw the best punter, John James, in week 16. Punt return average. No Lions on there. Delvin Williams tied with Kenny Harrison. No photograph. Is there punt return touchdowns? Yeah, so he had 2. Oh, it doesn't even show any. So how could he have 4 total touchdowns but only 2? That doesn't seem right. Okay. Quarterback rating. Oh, yeah, we saw that. Receiving touchdowns. Alfred Jenkins of Atlanta had 16. You see everybody else. Receiving yards. Freddie Scott finished number 1 despite missing 3/4 of the last game. Good job by Freddie Scott. I guess he has to be our player of the year. Receptions. He had 109, leading all football, the only player over 100, which, that's crazy. That never happened back then. Rushing yards, it's right there, but Billy Sims finished 8th with 14-14. Pretty good for a rookie. Just behind Walter Payton, not 98 yards behind Walter Payton. Okay, then we had rushes attempted. Billy Sims was 4th. You would have thought he'd be number 1 the way we fed him the ball. Billy Sims had the most touchdowns, tied with Wilbert Montgomery with 14. Here's sacks. Oh, Rulon Jones lost it in the end to Dwayne Board of San Francisco. There's Dwayne Board, second year. He had 11 sacks. And Al Bubba Baker had 6. All right. Tackles total. Mark Arneson had 129. Okay. Longtime St. Louis Cardinal. Yards per reception. Harold Jackson, 22.7 for New England. Stanley Morgan, also New England on the list. No Lions. Yards per rush, no Lions. Otis Anderson with 5.26. He was also a rookie. Oh, no, second year. And he took a step down for the Cardinals. Oh, he missed a game, too. Okay, yards per rush and yards per attempt. That'll wrap it up. So Steve Grogan, 10 yards per pass attempt. All right, well, I don't know. I mean, that's, what else can we say about that? I guess what we'll do now, let's see, how long is this video so far? 25 minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to close this out. We're going to end this video. This will conclude the season as its own inner workings. And then we'll do a separate video which will include the playoffs, where we'll just advance a week. We'll watch that get through, and then we'll see what happens with the offseason, with the free agent re-signings or signings or the draft. And that will just be a separate video, which will ultimately conclude the 1980 season. And then next year, around the time the football starts, we'll do the 1981 year. Okay, so once again, congratulations to Don for winning the Billy Sims autographed jersey. And thanks to everyone who took the time to watch any of these games. I always appreciate it. Like and or subscribe so you can get in on future contests. And that's going to do it. We will see you soon with the playoff video.